Before time was counted by day and night, before people gave names to the stars or rules to the sky, the world lived in one endless breath. There was no sun and moon, no light and shadow, just a perfect dance between warmth and calm. The sky held both in balance, and the earth below mirrored that peace. The world then wasn't flawless, but it felt whole. That changed the day the sky tore itself apart. No one knows why it happened. Some say the gods were afraid. Others say the light and dark loved each other too much. Whatever the truth was, the sun was sent west, the moon east, and from their parting came to lands Solune, kingdom of daylight, and Lunara, realm of night. To stop them from meeting again, the gods created something called the mirror veil. It was a barrier stronger than glass and softer than fog. It couldn't be seen or touched, but it was there floating between the two skies, forever keeping the sun and moon apart. The people below lived by its rules, never thinking to question them. In Solune, light ruled everything. Their skies were always clear, their fields golden and warm. Tall white towers reached toward the sky, and every hour was marked by the strength of the sun. The people wore light clothes and smiled often. They believed the sun was their father, a spirit of order, life, and truth. Their king ruled with logic, their priests preached with fire, and their children grew up learning that shadows were signs of weakness. Solune had no night, lamps were unknown, stories were short, memories were sharp, and dreams were rare. They didn't miss the moon because they had never known it. Far across the sea, wrapped in drifting mist and silver winds, stood Lunara. Here, the sun never rose. Instead, the world was lit by stars and a quiet moon that passed slowly through the sky. The rivers shimmered in soft light, and trees glowed faintly in the dark. People here spoke gently and moved slower. Lunara's people believed the moon was their mother, a soft goddess of time, reflection, and mystery. They lived by the rhythm of her light. There were no clocks, only tides. They planted by moon phases, celebrated by eclipses, and read the skies like books. Here, silence was sacred and stillness was strength. Children in Lunara were taught that heat could harm and brightness could blind. They were warned never to dream of the sun, never to ask about the other side of the sky. The mirror veil was their protector. It kept danger out. But some, especially the young, wondered if danger was the full story. Though the two lands had been kept apart for thousands of years, deep inside both, something waited. A hunger not for war or power, but for connection, a longing neither kingdom could explain. The gods had built the veil to protect the world from disaster, but the heart does not care for old rules. And in the silence between sun and moon, love was quietly waking up. In Solune's palace of crystal and gold, a child was born during the brightest sunrise the kingdom had ever seen. His name was Iris, and from the moment he cried, the light in the throne room grew warmer. The nurses said it felt like spring had walked in. The king said the boy carried a piece of the sun itself. Iris grew with fire in his chest and gold in his blood. He was tall, quick-witted, and kind. Flowers tilted toward him when he walked by. People smiled when he looked their way. The elders called him blessed. His father called him heir. But inside, Iris felt something missing, a feeling he couldn't name. At night, when others slept under the endless sun, Iris would lie awake in the palace garden, staring into the sky. He didn't know what he was looking for. Sometimes he saw a faint glow far beyond the light, something cool and soft. He dreamed of a girl standing beneath stars, her hair long, her eyes glowing like quiet fire. He told no one of these dreams. In Solune, dreams were not valued. They were seen as strange and useless, but Iris could not ignore them. Each dream felt real, like a memory of something he had never lived. The girl in them never spoke, but her gaze wrapped around him like a song he couldn't unhear. The older he got, the more the dreams pulled at him. He found himself walking toward shadows, watching the edges of mirrors, hoping to see something that didn't belong. The priests warned him that curiosity was dangerous, but Iris wasn't searching for danger. He was searching for her. On the other side of the world, in a city carved from stone and stars, a child was born under a rare blue moon. Her name was Celia, and the people of Lunara whispered that she was touched by the moon goddess herself. The night she was born, the wind stopped, and the stars blinked brighter for one long moment. Celia grew with grace in her hands and silence in her step. Her skin glowed like moonlight on water, and her hair fell like shadows down her back. She was trained to be a moonkeeper, one who watched the sky, listened to tides, and guarded the secrets of the mirror veil. But even as she studied, she felt a pull towards something she could never name. At the edge of the cliffs, where the sky touched the sea, Celia would sit for hours. She said she was reading the stars, but her heart was watching the horizon. She had never seen the sun, but sometimes, in her sleep, she dreamed of it, not as fire, but as a warmth that held her like a voice without sound. Her dreams were soft and strange. A boy with hair like flame and eyes like dawn stood in them, reaching through the darkness. He never said a word, but she felt his sorrow like a song buried in her bones. She woke with tears on her face and a name in her chest she had never heard. Iris. Celia never told the elders. They would have said she was drifting too close to the forbidden. They feared the sun and called its light a poison. But Celia's heart didn't fear the sun. It longed for it, not to worship it, only to understand what it felt like to be held by something bright. When Iris turned 17, Solune celebrated with parades and golden banners. He stood tall on the palace balcony, smiling as expected, but inside, he was far away. That night, as he rested under a sky too bright to sleep, something strange happened. The light dimmed, slowly, then faster. The sun dulled like a fading flame. It turned red, then gray, and for the first time in living memory, Solune saw shadows stretch across its streets. People panicked, birds quieted, children cried, but Iris felt peace, a calm he had never known. And then he saw her. Across the sky, beyond the fading sun, a window opened, brief but clear. Through it, he saw Celia, standing on a cliff of stone. Her eyes met his. Neither spoke, neither moved. The world stood still. Then the light returned, sudden and sharp, and the sky closed between them once more. In Lunara, the eclipse brought a different kind of silence. As the moon crossed paths with a light it was never meant to touch, Celia's heart beat faster. She saw a flicker beyond the veil, and in it golden light and a boy she had only seen in dreams. He was real. He was watching her too. The mirror veil had cracked, just for a heartbeat, and in that crack, something ancient awakened. The priests in both kingdoms called it a sign. Some feared it, others worshipped it, but Iris and Celia didn't care for omens. All they knew was that they had seen each other, and now the world could never be the same. After the eclipse, the dreams changed. They were no longer soft or distant. They became vivid, full of scent and sound. In them, Iris stood beneath silver trees. Celia walked through golden halls. They touched, danced, wept. Though asleep, their hearts remembered each moment as if it were real. In Solune, Iris stopped attending court. He wandered the palace grounds alone, eyes often closed, whispering names no one knew. Servants began to talk. The priests asked questions, but Iris could no longer explain his longing. How could he speak of a girl no one believed existed? In Lunara, Celia was caught drawing suns on temple walls. Her hands were warm, an unnatural thing in her world. The elders said she had been touched by something dangerous. They called for cleansing rituals, but the more they tried to pull her away from the dreams, the more the dreams pulled her in. Neither of them knew how or why their souls had found each other. They didn't understand the veil, or what had caused it to break for that one small moment. But they didn't need to know. They only knew that their connection was real, and they would not give it up. The dreams became their only meeting place, a secret world between sky and sea, where time didn't exist. There, they built a garden with their minds, shaped from memory and feeling. They sat together in silence. Sometimes they smiled. Sometimes they simply held hands and waited for the dawn that never came. In their dream garden, everything felt more real than the waking world. The trees shimmered with colors that didn't exist in either kingdom, and the ground pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Time there did not follow rules. Minutes stretched into hours, and hours passed like sighs. In that place, Iris and Celia began to fall in love. They didn't need words. Their silences said enough. When Celia laid her head on Eris's shoulder, it felt like she'd known him across lifetimes. When he brushed her hair behind her ear, the world hushed. Their love did not bloom loudly. It unfolded slowly, like mist curling through morning. But love, no matter how gentle, cannot stay hidden forever. In Solune, the high priest grew uneasy. Iris had become distant, speaking in half-thoughts and watching the horizon like a man chasing ghosts. The sun's light around him grew dimmer, as though even it sensed he was slipping away. In Lunara, the elders called Celia's dreams dangerous. Her warmth had grown. Plants near her home bloomed out of season. Her skin no longer felt like moonlight, it shimmered with something golden. They feared she was becoming a bridge, a vessel for the forbidden light. Still, Iris and Celia returned to their garden each night. They carved poems into the stone walls with their fingertips and shared stories of their worlds. Iris laughed at the idea of planting by moon cycles. Celia found it strange that people could live without stars. They didn't just fall in love with each other, but with what the other had always been denied. Deep beneath both kingdoms, older than stone and fire, the gods stirred. Their sleep had lasted eons, undisturbed by human affairs, but the spark between sun and moon was something they had sworn would never happen again. Love once before had broken the sky, and now it threatened to do so again. The goddess of the moon, Lunara, whispered through tides and dreams. She reached for Celia, trying to remind her of her purpose, her vow to silence. The god of the sun, Solare, sent visions to Iris, flashes of burning cities and shattered veils. Both deities tried to pull their children back, but love had taken root. The mirror veil, long unbroken, began to shimmer, not just in dreams, but in the waking world. Sailors from distant islands reported seeing flashes of silver in the sky, strange sounds at twilight, and visions of figures walking in clouds. The world didn't understand what it saw, but the gods did. They gave a final warning. If Iris and Celia met in the flesh, not just in dreams, the veil would tear. Not a crack, a full rupture. Sun and moon would collide. Balance would break. The curse buried long ago would rise again. The gods didn't want punishment. They wanted prevention. But fate had already moved. And the hearts of Iris and Celia had already made a promise. One stronger than fear, older than rules. It happened on a night when the sea stilled and the sky trembled. Celia stood at the edge of her world, on a cliff lined with bone-white stones. Across the ocean, beyond clouds and mist, the veil thinned. She felt Iris calling, not with words, but with aching. Her feet moved before her mind did. In Solune, Iris rode alone to the horizon, past guards, past temples, past the boundaries marked forbidden. The sun dulled behind him. His chest burned with something he could no longer carry alone. His horse refused the edge of the world, but Iris kept walking, step by step, into the lightless wind. Then, without warning, the mirror veil parted. It didn't break. It simply opened, like a curtain drawn by hands unseen. And in the middle of it stood the garden from their dreams, but this time, it was real. The stones, the trees, the quiet pool, it was all there, and so were they. Iris reached for Celia. Celia stepped into his arms. The moment they touched, the sky screamed. Light and dark clashed above them in spirals of gold and silver. The earth rumbled, winds howled, but they didn't let go. The veil tried to close and failed. The world had felt their love. It could not be undone. Across both kingdoms, people fell to their knees. The priests wept. The children pointed. The rivers changed course. Time itself hiccuped. Some were afraid. Others were in awe. But no one, not even the gods, could stop what had begun. Iris and Celia were no longer two. They were one. When the veil shattered completely, it was not with fire, but with silence. The kind of silence that carries weight. The sun rose for the first time in Lunara, and its people cried, not from pain, but from the shock of it. Shadows ran and hid. Flowers bloomed instantly. Some fainted. Others stood in awe. In Solune, night fell for the first time. The stars appeared, trembling like newborns. The people of light held each other as the world darkened. Some feared it was death, but many felt something else: rest, a cool breath, peace. And in the middle of this shift stood Iris and Celia, holding hands beneath a sky that no longer chose sides. The gods did not speak, but their silence was not surrender. They moved slowly, weaving fate behind the scenes. They did not strike Iris or Celia down. They allowed their love to live, but at a price. For when balance breaks, even for beauty, something must be given in return. That night, Iris and Celia sat beneath a tree in their dream-turned real garden. They kissed for the first time. It wasn't fiery or rushed. It was quiet, trembling, full of memory. The wind stopped to listen. The stars dimmed to give them privacy. And for a moment, the world was perfect. But as dawn approached, Celia felt a chill in her chest. Iris looked pale. The garden's colors began to fade. The gods had not punished them, not directly. Instead, they had twisted time. From now on, every time they touched, the world would bend. Storms would rise, seasons would falter, and worse, their bodies would weaken. Celia's hair grew silver at the ends. Her fingertips lost warmth. She forgot small things, the names of flowers, the sound of bells. Iris began coughing up sparks, his steps slowing, his eyes dimming like sunsets behind clouds. They tried to stay apart, but their love would not allow it. They met again and again, even knowing the cost. Their garden became both haven and wound. Every embrace healed their hearts, but hurt the world. Rivers flooded, crops withered. Children in distant lands dreamed of burning ice and falling skies. The gods remained silent, watching, waiting, and the people began to ask questions. What had caused this? In Solune, whispers turned to fear. Some blamed Iris, others blamed the moon. In Lunara, the priests cried betrayal. They said Celia had chosen flesh over faith. Armies began to gather, not for war, but to seal the veil once more. But there was no veil to fix. It had been undone by something deeper than magic: love. Iris and Celia met again in the garden. They didn't speak. They sat beneath the old tree and looked up at the sky. Their faces were pale, their hands shook, but their eyes still held stars. They knew their time was short, but they had one last thing to do. That night, in a storm of lightning and wind, they stood at the heart of the world, the very center where sun and moon first split. There, they held hands, kissed one last time, and whispered to the wind. Then, slowly, they stepped into the earth together, and the storm died with them. When the people awoke, the world was different. The sun rose and set. The moon followed it in peace. There were shadows and stars, warmth and coolness, order and mystery. Solune and Lunara no longer existed. In their place was one world, neither to bright nor to dark. The people changed too. They stopped fearing what they didn't understand. Priests painted temples with silver and gold. Children learned both science and stories. Dreams were no longer forbidden. And every year, on the day of the great eclipse, people told the story of the two who broke the veil. Some say Iris and Celia became stars, twin lights, always chasing each other across the sky. Others say they became spirits in the trees or whispers in the sea. But the truth is simpler. Their love became part of the world, in every sunset, in every moonrise, in every place where the hearts meet, despite the odds. The gods, it is said, never spoke again. They had learned that love, true love, cannot be erased, only transformed. They watched as the world grew in balance, and though they had tried to stop it, they understood now that love had never been the curse. If you walk to the edge of the world on the night of an eclipse, some say, you can still see the garden, not as it was, but as it became full of wildflowers and singing wind. Sit there long enough, and you might hear footsteps, a soft laugh, a hand brushing yours. That is their gift, not just to each other, but to us. A reminder that the greatest love stories aren't the ones that follow the rules, but the ones that rewrite them. A reminder that even in the face of God's fate and fear, love can still win. And when it does, it leaves behind more than just legends. It leaves behind a light that never fades.